In this video, we're going to be going over basic knee function. The most fundamental action of the knee is to rotate. The rotation is controlled largely from the hamstrings. So you're feeling here that the hamstring on the direction that you're moving should be the main point of tension of what's creating the motion. You're trying to get a feel for that as you move through that for about 30 seconds. From there, we're going into the focus of our work. Internal rotation, PAILS, and rails. We're going to be in this position for 90 seconds to 2 minutes. We could go longer, but that's the minimum. We're going to create rotation here about the shin, about the knee, by positioning the hip away from the box, but maintaining the shin contact and outside edge of the foot contact. I like to put a weight on the inside to hold the heel so that you can create a little bit more drive. Sometimes it feels like your foot wants to slip out. So you also need to keep some weight pressed into the foot to keep the foot pinned at this angle. Now during the stretch phase, in about 90 seconds, a minute and a half, we're going to complete isometric ramping to connect with the tissue that we're going to be working with at a more maximal intent in a couple of seconds. So the isometric ramping is the attempt to PAIL contract or rotate the knee externally or into the box, and feeling that that lives in the outside edge of the hamstring. So the ramp would be inhale as contraction occurs and builds, exhaling, relaxing back to a relaxed state fully, and then repeating that on breath cycles. Inhale, push and engage, exhale, relax, feeling that the tension is on a spectrum, where the tissue is and how to access it. So that when we go into the heavier isometrics, you know where to find everything. Now we could do rail ramps while we're here to connect with the rail tissue or the tissue responsible for pulling the knee into further internal rotation, if we want to connect with that stuff during that phase. We can't leave position during this entire time, and we go into our build to a max effort PAIL contraction. Now it's no longer oscillating with the breath, it's just one constant push attempting to externally rotate into the box, but the box and the weight don't allow any movement to occur, feeling this in the outside edge of the hamstring. Driving at somewhere between maximal effort and something that you feel like you can maintain for endurance, depending on the findings of the assessment or how that stuff is feeling. Secondary to that, once it fatigues out and you can't maintain the intensity you're going for, we switch directionality. So now we're on the inside edge of the hamstring, attempting to further drive internal rotation using the knee, not by leveraging the stretch. We're just going to keep that same stretch position. We'll hold that until the tissue fatigues out. From there, we're going to reinforce the rotational work again. So we go back to the axial rotations and we feel what is responsible for creating these actions. It's not about naming them, it's about sensing them and where they are in the body and connecting with that stuff. So we're going to reinforce the work we did with the isometrics for the internal rotation of the knee by moving through some internal external rotations and feeling it where we want to feel it. From there, we're going to go to external rotation of the knee. So we just go to the other side, pin the instep and the inner foot to the box and the inner knee, and we rotate about the knee such that the hip moves away from the box. We're not going deep to crank into this, we're going to our kind of natural felt end range, something that we still have some drive in. Now our PAILS contraction in this position is the attempt to rotate the shin inward, but the box and the weight don't allow it to move. And again, having some body weight on that foot so that you can really pin it down to drive stronger without it moving. Feeling that the PAIL intent tissue is on the inner edge of the hamstring here. That's the main focus at the beginning. The rail tissue will be the outside edge, attempting to pull the shin further into external rotation into this position. So we're iso-ramping, inhaling as you engage, feeling your engagement is on a spectrum, building, exhaling, relaxing back to a fully relaxed state. We'll cycle through that again for about 90 seconds as a minimum. We can go longer if we have more time to spend here and we can feel stuff. We're kind of connecting with things. As we come up into this portion, we're going to build that PAIL contraction, but now it's constant. So we're building to a max effort or whatever effort is appropriate based on assessment and feel, and we're holding it constant until it fatigues out, till it loses intensity or it gets disorganized. You can't drive it how you were. And we switch directions. So we go to the outside edge stuff, attempting to pull deeper into this externally rotated position. We hold that strong, feeling that outside edge of hamstring stuff. When it fatigues out, we can relax, and just like before, we're going to reinforce with some axial rotations, really connecting with and sensing the stuff that's responsible for creating the range of motion at the knee, which is this hamstring stuff. Now, some details about doing axials. We can add in directionality linearly. So as you rotate, pull the ground to you, feel how that exaggerates the hamstring tension. But you can also rotate and push the ground away, which is going to change how the knee has to function to manage those tasks at the same time. From there, we're going into our 90-degree knee flexion PAILS and rails, or positional ISO. For most people, this is not at end range, but this is at a high tension range for the ACL. So we're going to work it. Now, we could have rotational components here, so you could be in this position with the knee pointed out, or the knee and shin pointed in, or straight ahead like I am here. Over time, those are variables we can feel for if we haven't really detailed that assessment all the way in. During these ISO ramps, we're going multi-directional, so inhaling, pushing forward, exhaling, relaxing, inhaling, pulling towards you, exhale, relaxing. We can cycle and feel how the stuff of the knee and the thigh are responsible for the action of the knee and how that feels with different directions. We can pull from the heel, we can pull from the toe as well. We can add back in all that rotational variable along with that linear variable here. We're going to find our needed lines of work, which we may feel by assessing them, kind of moving through them and feeling where things feel strong or weak or absent or tender, kind of approaching those regions in the work. So here we're coming up to the pail, in which case we're going to try to push the ground away from us forward, feeling that that's all the top of knee stuff. You can push from the toe or push from the heel or push from a flat foot. You're going to hold that at an intensity until it fatigues out. Then we're pulling backwards, engaging the bottom, the back of the knee stuff, and filling out the knee with generalized tension. Really feeling everything. When it fatigues out, we're going to go back to the axials again. We use the rotation because it communicates with the motor cortex in the brain. So it's like a save button neurologically. Now, that's not exactly how it works, but for all intents and purposes, that's how we can think about it. We can also feel that that's the case as we wake things up by isometrically driving high amounts of intensity. We want to make sure that we can keep as much of that sense that we create in those activities as we possibly can. And again, we have options here. Pulling the ground to us, pushing the ground away, using the heel as an anchor point as a pivot, or using the midfoot, forefoot as a pivot point, big toe, playing with those options and feeling how they change things. From there, we're going into knee cars to finish, to really store all the work we were working on, feeling that hamstring relationship to the rotation that we worked on your own personal practice. Feel that you can do knee cars with various hip orientations, whether the hips open or closed or rotated in either direction, feeling how the variables go together.